The palace of Velta glittered beneath the light of three suns. Towering crystal spires pierced the pink heavens, their surfaces reflecting waves of gold, violet, and silver across the city below. Vast gardens surrounded the palace grounds, filled with exotic flowers whose glowing petals swayed gently in the warm breeze. To most visitors, it looked like paradise. To Captain Day, it looked like a battlefield waiting to happen. He stood beside a polished marble pillar, silently observing the hundreds of diplomats, nobles, and military officials moving through the enormous reception hall. Years of military service had taught him a simple lesson. The most dangerous people were often the ones smiling. His powered armor emitted a low mechanical hum, as internal servos compensated for the planet's weaker gravity. Small lights blinked across the chest plate, while hidden systems continuously monitored his surroundings. Day was 32 years old. 12 of those years had been spent in military service. His short black hair was neatly trimmed, and his dark eyes moved constantly through the crowd, noticing details most people overlooked. A nervous glance, a whispered conversation, a hidden gesture. Nothing escaped his attention. Compared to the elegant guests surrounding him, he looked completely out of place. Alien nobles wore flowing robes woven from living fabrics. Diplomats dressed in shimmering garments that changed color with every movement. Some species adorned themselves with jewels, precious metals, or glowing energy fields. Standing among them, Day looked less like a guest and more like a weapon. A heavily armored weapon. Several aliens stole curious glances in his direction. Others stared openly. Humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition only 6 months earlier, and the fascination surrounding Earth showed no signs of fading. To most civilizations, humans were a biological impossibility. A species born on a world that should never have produced intelligent life. A death world. The phrase appeared constantly in alien reports. Too much gravity. Too many predators. Too many diseases. Too many natural disasters. Every aspect of Earth seemed designed to kill its inhabitants. And yet humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. Many aliens found that deeply unsettling. Day caught snippets of conversation drifting through the hall. That's one of the humans. I heard their soldiers train in gravity twice as strong as ours. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. No wonder they wear armor everywhere. He ignored the whispers. He was used to them. Across the hall, Ambassador Hana moved effortlessly through the sea of guests. Where Day looked like a soldier, she looked born for diplomacy. At 40 years old, she carried herself with quiet confidence. Silver streaks ran through her dark hair, giving her an air of experience that many diplomats twice her age lacked. She smiled warmly as she greeted representatives from dozens of worlds. Switching languages without hesitation, understanding customs without reference notes, remembering names, titles, and political rivalries from memory alone. It was like watching a master musician perform. Every movement precise. Every word calculated. Every smile deliberate. Several alien diplomats laughed at something she said. Others seemed surprised that a human could speak their language so fluently. Day wasn't surprised. Hana always came prepared. That was why Earth trusted her with humanity's first major diplomatic mission. Still, something felt wrong. His instincts refused to relax. The celebration was too perfect. The smiles too practiced. The atmosphere too careful. Years of military experience whispered a warning in the back of his mind. When everyone appears friendly, someone is hiding a knife. Day's eyes swept across the hall again. Then he noticed it. Near the far end of the chamber, 3 Valtari nobles abruptly stopped their conversation when Hana approached. One of them whispered something. Another glanced toward the human ambassador with obvious irritation. The third looked away immediately when he realized Day was watching. The captain's jaw tightened. Interesting. Very interesting. Perhaps humanity's arrival in the Galactic Coalition was not being celebrated by everyone after all. And if there was one thing Day had learned during 12 years of service, it was that the first signs of trouble were always the quiet ones. They had survived themselves. Velis watched humans fighting with primitive weapons. They punched each other, used metal tools, fired simple projectile weapons. The scenes were dramatic and loud. Bellis laughed harder. Her officers joined her. They make stories about fighting because they have never truly fought. Belra said, "Look at them. They are weak, fragile. I could break one with my bare hands." Kalen, her second in command, stepped forward. He was younger than Velis, but smart. "Commander, perhaps we should study them more. The reports show they fight among themselves constantly. Thousands of wars in their history." "Exactly. Velis said they fight themselves because they are divided and weak. A strong species would have united their planet quickly. The Ikoth did it in 3 generations. How long have humans been fighting? Thousands of years. Pathetic." She walked closer to the screen. It now showed human history. Ancient warriors with swords, soldiers with guns, tanks and planes, nuclear weapons. So much destruction, all aimed at their own kind. "They are self-destructive," Velis continued. "When we make contact, they will either surrender immediately or destroy themselves arguing about what to do. Either way, they pose no threat." Kalen looked at the data. Their population is over 8 billion. Their industrial capacity is impressive for a single planet. "And Commander, look at this." He highlighted a section of the report. "They have sent machines to other planets in their system. They are beginning to reach for the stars." Bellis waved her hand dismissively. "Many species reach for the stars. Few succeed in touching them. We will contact them, offer them a place in the Galactic Council, and they will accept gratefully. This will be easy." Another officer, Vin, spoke up. "Should we bring a full military escort? The regulations say diplomatic missions to unknown species require 5 warships." "5 warships?" Velis laughed again. "For them, 3 will be more than enough. 2 really, but we will bring 3 to follow basic protocol. These humans have barely left their own planet. What could they possibly do to us?" The briefing continued. Velis only half listened. She was already planning how this mission would advance her career. A successful first contact with a new species. Easy negotiations. Perhaps she would even bring back trade agreements. The council would be impressed. She did not notice Callan's worried expression. She did not see how Plex kept looking at the historical data about human conflicts. She definitely did not hear the quiet voice of Tay, a human linguistic specialist who worked on the station. Tay was one of only 3 humans in this part of the galaxy. His exploration ship had been damaged years ago, and the Council had rescued him. Since then, he had worked as a translator, helping the Council understand the few human transmissions they had intercepted. Now Tay stood in the back of the room, watching Velis laugh at the images of his people. He said nothing. He had learned that the other species in the galaxy did not understand humans. They looked at human bodies and saw weakness. They looked at human history and saw chaos. They never understood the truth. Humans were not strong because they did not fall. Humans were strong because they got up every time they fell. They had been getting up for millions of years. They had survived ice ages, predators, diseases, and each other. They had climbed to the top of their world, not through natural weapons, but through determination, intelligence, and the refusal to give up. Tay watched Velis dismiss humanity with a laugh. He felt a small bit of pity for her. She would learn soon enough. They always did. The briefing ended. Velis walked out confidently, already planning the mission to Earth. Behind her, Tay quietly collected the data files. He would go with them on this mission, and when the time came, he would try to warn them, but he knew they would not listen. Not yet. They would have to see for themselves. The diplomatic ship moved through space at faster than light speed. Felris sat in her command chair, reviewing the mission parameters. 3 escort cruisers followed her flagship. It was a small force, but she believed it was more than enough. The journey to Earth would take 10 days. Velis used the time to study humanity more closely, though she still thought they were unimpressive. Kalen brought her more intercepted transmissions every day. Human news broadcasts, educational programs, more of their violent entertainment. Velis watched all of it with the same amused detachment. One transmission showed human history. A war they called World War II. Velis saw millions of humans fighting across their entire planet. The destruction was massive. Cities burned, millions died, and yet the humans kept fighting. They killed over 60 million of their own kind in just 6 years. Kalen said quietly. That is more than the total population of 12 council species. Velis frowned. They are wasteful, inefficient. The IC would never allow such losses. Yes, Commander, Kalen said. But the humans did not surrender. Both sides fought until one was completely defeated. Total war, they called it. Every resource, every person dedicated to victory or death. Velis leaned back. That is the behavior of animals, not civilized beings. When we meet them, we will teach them better ways. Tay entered the bridge carrying data pads. He was quiet as always, moving with careful steps. The other crew members ignored him as they usually did. To them, he was just a translator, barely worth noticing. Commander, Tay said softly, I have finished analyzing the linguistic patterns. I can communicate with Earth when we arrive. Good, Bell said. She looked at him with curiosity. Tell me, Tay, you are human. What do you think of your people's violent history? Tay paused. He chose his words carefully. My people have a saying, Commander. We are not strong because we do not fall. We are strong because we rise every time we do. Felrus did not understand. That makes no sense. The strong do not fall in the first place. Respectfully, Commander, everyone falls. The question is whether you can get back up. Velis waved her hand. Philosophy. I prefer facts. She turned back to her screens. Tay bowed slightly and left the bridge. Callan watched him go with thoughtful eyes. The days passed. The ship moved closer to human space. Velis continued reviewing the data, and her opinion did not change. Humans were weak, divided, and would be easy to manage. On the 7th day, something changed. Pix rushed to the bridge with new intercepts. Commander, we have picked up military transmissions from Earth. They know we are coming. Bell sat up straight. How? They have detection systems we did not know about. Basic, but functional. They detected our ships 2 days ago. What is their response? Velis asked. Pix looked nervous. They have mobilized their military. 3 fleets are moving to intercept positions. They are preparing for possible combat. Velis laughed. They think we are invaders. Typical. Send them a message, Tay. Tell them we come in peace for diplomatic contact only. Tay moved to the communication station. He sent the message in multiple human languages. Then they waited. The response came an hour later. A human face appeared on the screen. He wore a military uniform and looked stern. His name tag said, Admiral Park. Attention's unidentified vessels, the human said. You have entered Earth's defensive perimeter. State your intentions and hold your position. Any aggressive action will be met with force. Velis smiled. I am Commander Velis of the Akoth Empire, representing the Galactic Council. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations with humanity. We mean no harm. Admiral Park's expression did not change. Understood. Maintain your current position. We will send a diplomatic escort to guide you to the appropriate location. Do not deviate from the designated flight path. Do not approach Earth directly. Follow these instructions exactly. The screen went dark. Kalen looked at Velis. They are cautious, Commander. They are paranoid. Velis corrected. They see peaceful visitors and respond with military threats. This confirms what I already knew. They are a primitive, frightened species. But something bothered her. Admiral Park had not seemed frightened. He had seemed calm, controlled, and completely confident. His orders were clear and direct. There was no hesitation in his voice. 2 days later, the human escort arrived. It was a small military ship, bristling with weapons. It took position ahead of flagship and sent navigation coordinates. Velis followed the human ship deeper into their solar system, but not toward Earth. Instead, they were guided to a small station orbiting Mars, the 4th planet. A neutral meeting location, Callan observed. Smart. They are not allowing us near their homeworld until they know more about us. Or they are afraid, Velis said. But even she had to admit the humans were being careful, not cowardly. Their military responded quickly and professionally. Their communications were clear. Their escort ship maintained perfect formation. These were not the actions of a chaotic, divided species. As they approached the Mars station, Velis saw more human ships. Military vessels positioned at strategic points. Enough to observe, not enough to threaten. Defensive positioning, but well executed. They have been planning for first contact, Tay said quietly. For decades, actually. There are entire departments dedicated to this scenario. Velis looked at him. You knew this? I am human, Commander. Of course I knew. For the first time, Velis felt a small seed of doubt. Not about human weakness, and that was obvious, but about their predictability. She had expected fear or chaos. Instead, she found order and preparedness. The diplomatic ship docked at the Mars station. Through the windows, Velis could see human personnel moving efficiently through the corridors. Everything was clean, organized, professional. She pushed the doubt aside. These were just surface appearances. When actual challenges came, humans would show their true weakness. Velis had no way of knowing that 3 days later, everything she believed would be shattered. The first day of diplomatic talks went smoothly. Human representatives were polite and professional. They asked many questions about the Galactic Council. They shared basic information about Earth. Everything was civilized and calm. Velis felt her confidence return. See, humans were cooperative and eager to join galactic society. They knew they were outmatched and were being smart about it. On the second day, Velis decided to return to her ship. The talks would continue tomorrow. She said goodbye to the human diplomats and walked back to the docking bay with Callan and Tay. They are reasonable, Velis said. This mission will be successful. Callan nodded. They are more organized than the report suggested. They boarded the flagship and undocked from the station. The plan was to move to a nearby orbit and rest. Tomorrow would bring more negotiations, but tomorrow never came. The attack happened without warning. One moment, space was empty and peaceful. The next moment, 12 ships appeared from nowhere. They came out of faster-than-light travel right on top of Velis's small fleet. Red alert, Callan shouted. Unknown vessels attacking. The bridge exploded into chaos. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed. The ship shook as enemy weapons hit their shields. Velis grabbed her chair to stay standing. Identify them. Vin Collective, the tactical officer said, fear in his voice. It is a full battle group, 12 ships. We are outnumbered 4-1. The Vin. Velis's blood went cold. The Vin were the most feared pirates in this region of space. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They attacked, destroyed, and took whatever they wanted. And they were very, very good at it. All ships, evasive action, ordered. Return fire. Send distress signal to the Council. Her 3 escort cruisers tried to fight back. For 2 minutes, they held their own. Then, the Vin focused their fire. The first cruiser exploded in a ball of flame. The second lost power and went dark. Only one remained, and it was badly damaged. The Vin ships were larger, better armed, and more numerous. This was not a fight. This was an execution. Shields at 30%, someone called out. Hull breach on deck 7. Life support failing in sections 3 through 5. Velis's mind raced. They could not win this fight. They could not escape. The Council ships were 3 days away. Too far, too late. She had only one chance. Tay, she shouted. Send distress signal to Earth. All frequencies. Emergency protocol. Tay's fingers flew across his console. Signal sent, Commander. No response yet. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency power came on, bathing everything in red light. Shields at 10%, Callan said quietly. Commander, we should prepare for boarding. The Vin will take the ship in less than 5 minutes. Belrus knew what that meant. The Vin did not take prisoners. They would kill everyone on board. Slowly, she watched her tactical display. The last escort cruiser was destroyed. Now only her flagship remained, crippled and dying. 12 Wren ships surrounded them like predators, circling wounded prey. Commander T said, I am receiving a response from Earth. Put it through, Velis said. She expected nothing. What could humans do? They were far away and this was not their fight. A face appeared on the screen. A human male, young, but with hard eyes. He wore a dark uniform with gold markings. The name on his chest said Captain Juan. This is the UNC Indomitable, responding to your distress call, he said calmly. We have your position. We are en route. Hold on. The screen went dark. Velis stared at the empty screen. One ship, she whispered. They are sending one ship. Callan checked his sensors. Confirmed, Commander. One human vessel. Medium cruiser class. It will arrive in approximately 4 hours. 4 hours. They did not have 4 hours. They had minutes at best. Shields at 5%. The tactical officer said, Vin boarding ships are launching. Impact in 90 seconds. Velra sat in her command chair. Around her, the crew prepared for the end. Some checked weapons. Others said quiet prayers. Callan stood by her side, loyal to the last. Tay continued monitoring the communications. His face was calm. Too calm. You do not seem worried, Velrus said to him. Tay looked at her. The Indomitable is one of our newest warships, Commander. Captain Juan is one of our best officers. If he says he is coming, he is coming. One ship cannot defeat 12, Belra said. It was a simple fact, perhaps, Tay said. But humans have a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. Velis did not understand, and she had no time to ask. The Vin boarding ships were 30 seconds away. She could see them on the screen, small and fast, filled with their warriors. The Vin were 3 meters tall with thick armor-like skin. They had claws and strength that could tear through metal. Each Vin warrior was worth 5th soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. Velis's crew had 20 soldiers. The Vin were sending 60. The boarding ships attached to the hull with loud clangs. Cutting torches began burning through the airlocks. All personnel prepared to repel boarders, Velis ordered, but she knew it was hopeless. She thought about Captain Juan and his single ship. She thought about Tay's strange calmness. She thought about all those human war movies she had laughed at. Maybe, she thought, maybe she had been wrong about humans, but it was too late now. The airlock door exploded inward. Vin warriors poured through, roaring with battle rage. The Ikoth soldiers fired their weapons, but it was not enough. The Vin kept coming, and somewhere in space, still 4 hours away, the human ship called Indomitable pushed its engines beyond safe limits and accelerated even faster. 3 hours and 47 minutes. That was how long Velis and her crew survived. They fought in the corridors. They fought in the engine rooms. They fought in the bridge. But slowly, steadily, the Vin pushed them back. The pirates were too strong, too many, and too brutal. Velis had a deep cut across her arm. Kalen was bleeding from his head. Of their 20 soldiers, only 8 remained. They had barricaded themselves in the bridge, but it would not hold for long. The Vin pounded on the door. Each impact made it buckle a little more. They were laughing outside, enjoying the hunt. Commander, Callan said quietly, it has been an honor. Felris nodded. She had failed. Her arrogance had killed her crew. She should have brought 5 warships. She should have been more careful. She should have, Commander. Ta shouted from his console. The Indomitable is dropping out of FTL. Everyone turned to look at the tactical display. One ship, one single human ship appeared on their sensors. It was smaller than the Vin capital ships. Outnumbered 12 to 1. They came. Belrus whispered. Even now, even at the end, she could not believe it. They had no reason to help. This was not their fight, but they came anyway. Captain Juan's face appeared on the screen. Commander, hold your position. We will handle this. The screen showed the external view. Velis watched the Indomitable move toward the battle. It did not slow down. It did not pause. It dove straight into the Vin formation like a knife into flesh. What happened next was like nothing Velis had ever seen. The human ship moved with impossible speed and precision. It rolled, twisted, and turned in ways that should have torn it apart. Its weapons fired continuously. Every shot hit. Every hit damaged. The Vin ships tried to respond, but the Indomitable was already somewhere else. It was like watching a dancer if dancers could kill with every movement. 2 Vin ships exploded in the first minute. A third lost power. The remaining 9 tried to form a defensive formation, but the human ship would not let them. It split their formation, isolated ships, and destroyed them one by one. Impossible, Kalen breathed. How are they doing this? Tay smiled for the first time. Human combat doctrine. We do not fight fair. We fight to win. On the screen, the Indomitable performed a maneuver that made Velis's blood run cold. It flew directly at a Vin battleship, weapons blazing. At the last second, when collision seemed certain, it rolled underneath and fired all weapons into the battleship's weak underbelly. The battleship broke in half. They are insane, someone whispered. No, Tay said. They are committed. The battle raged. More Vin ships exploded. The Indomitable was damaged too. Velis could see fires on its hull and sections venting atmosphere. But it did not slow down. It did not retreat. It kept fighting with a ferocity that terrified even Velis. Then Captain Juan's voice came through the speakers. Boarding team, you are go for deployment. Velis watched as a small ship launched from the Indomitable. It headed straight for one of the Vin capital ships. The boarding team was going on the attack. They are boarding a Vin ship? Kalen asked in disbelief. That is suicide. Tay shook his head. Watch the small ship attached to the Vin vessel. Through the tactical sensors, Velis could track the human team as they cut through the hull and entered. 20 human soldiers against over 100 Vin warriors. The battle inside the Vin ship was brutal and fast. Velis watched the sensor readings with growing amazement. The human team moved through the ship like a storm. They used weapons, explosives, and pure aggression. Room by room, deck by deck, they cleared the ship. The Vin were larger and stronger. It did not matter. The humans were faster, smarter, and absolutely relentless. In 15 minutes, the human boarding team captured the Vin capital ship. The remaining Vin warriors either died or surrendered. "Commander," one of the humans said over the radio. His voice was calm, as if he had just taken a walk instead of clearing an entire enemy warship. "Bryn, vessel is secure. Moving to assist your position." The human boarding team included a sergeant named Mir. Velis saw her on the security feeds when the team cut through into Velis's ship to fight the Vin from behind. Mira was smaller than Velis. She had no natural armor or claws. Her combat suit was damaged and scorched. But when she moved, she was like liquid metal, smooth, fast, and deadly. A Ven warrior charged her in the corridor. It roared and swung its massive claws. Mi ducked under the swing, stepped inside the Vin's reach, and put 3 shots into its neck. The Vin fell. She was already moving to the next target. Velis watched through the security cameras. She had stopped breathing. She had stopped thinking. She could only watch as this small human warrior cut through the Vin like they were nothing. The Vin were supposed to be unstoppable in close combat. Every species in the galaxy feared them. But Mira fought them with cold efficiency. No fear, no hesitation, just skill and determination. The human team reached the bridge in 5 minutes. The Vin outside the door turned to face this new threat. Big mistake. The fight was short and brutal. The humans used weapons, explosives, and coordinated tactics that the Vin could not counter. In less than 2 minutes, all the Vin were dead or unconscious. The bridge door opened. Mi stepped through, her weapons still ready. She scanned the room, saw that Velis and her crew were the only ones alive, and relaxed slightly. "Commander Velris," Mary said with a small nod. "You and your crew are secure." Velis stared at her. This small human had just saved her life. This supposedly weak species had just defeated the Vin. Everything thought she knew was wrong. "How?" Velis managed to ask. "How did you do this?" Mi looked at her for a moment. "We trained, Commander. Every day, every year, all our lives. Because on Earth, if you are not strong, you die. We learned to be strong." Outside, the space battle was ending. Of the 12 Ren ships, 8 were destroyed. 4 were captured. The Indomitable was still intact, though heavily damaged. Captain Juan appeared on the screen again. His face was tired, but calm. "Commander Velis, my medical team is on the way to treat your wounded. We will tow your ship to Mars Station for repairs. You are safe now." Felris looked around her bridge, at her surviving crew, at the human soldiers who had saved them, at Tay, who had known all along what humans were capable of. "Thank you," Fellis said quietly. She had never meant those words more in her entire life. The human medical team worked quickly and efficiently. They treated the wounded with the same care they showed their own soldiers. Fellis watched a human doctor named Hana carefully bandage Callan's head wound while talking to him in a soft, reassuring voice. "You will be fine," Hana said. "The cut looks worse than it is. You are very brave." Callan, a warrior who had faced death without flinching, smiled at the human doctor's kind words. Velis's own wounds were being treated by another human medic. The medic's hands were gentle, but skilled. "This might sting a bit," he warned, before applying the medical gel. He was right, it stung. But within seconds, the pain faded and the wound began to close. "Your medical technology is impressive," Velis said. The medic smiled. "We have had a lot of practice. Humans are very good at hurting each other, so we became very good at healing each other too." That statement made Velis think. She looked around the medical bay. Human soldiers sat next to ICO crew members. Some were wounded, some were just tired, but they all shared the same exhausted relief of people who had survived something terrible together. Captain Juan entered the medical bay. He looked tired too, but he moved with purpose. He stopped to check on each wounded person, human and alike. When he reached Velis, he nodded respectfully. "Commander, your ship is being towed to Mars Station. Repairs will take about a week. In the meantime, You and your crew are welcome aboard the Indomitable. You saved our lives, Velis said. Why? Juan looked surprised by the question. You sent a distress call. People needed help. That is reason enough. But we are not your allies. We are strangers. You risked your ship and your crew for strangers. Juan sat down next to her. He looked thoughtful. Commander, let me tell you something about humans. We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we survived on Earth because we learned to work together. We learned that helping others is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. Velis tried to understand. The Ike survived through power and dominance. Helping the weak was considered foolish. But these humans thought differently. Your warrior, Mir, Velis said. I watched her fight. She destroyed Vin's soldiers like they were nothing. How is that possible? Juan smiled slightly. Would you like to meet her? I am sure she can explain better than I can. A few minutes later, Sergeant Mira entered the medical bay. She had cleaned up and changed into a fresh uniform. But Velis could see the bruises on her face and arms. The fight had not been as easy as it looked. You wanted to see me, Captain? Mi asked. Commander has questions about our combat methods, Juan said. I thought you could help. Mi looked at Velis. Up close, the human sergeant was even smaller than Velis thought. How had this small person defeated warriors twice her size? How did you beat the Vin? Velis asked directly. They are stronger than you. Bigger. They have natural weapons. You should not have won. Mary considered the question. Commander, on Earth, humans are not the strongest animals. Lions are stronger. Bears are bigger. Snakes have venom. But humans rule Earth. Do you know why? Velis shook her head. Because we are smart, we use tools, we work together, we adapt, and most importantly, we never give up. Mir sat down across from Velis. The Vin are strong, yes, but strength alone is not enough. They rely on their size and power. We rely on training, tactics, and teamwork. You fought without fear, Velis said. I had fear, Mary corrected. Fear keeps you alive. But I have trained for situations like this since I was 18 years old. I have practiced those movements thousands of times. When the fight started, my training took over. I did not have time to be afraid. I just did what I was trained to do. Over the next few days, as the Indomitable traveled back to Mars Station, Velis spent time with the human crew. She watched them work. She listened to their conversations. She learned. She met Bora, the chief engineer who had kept the Indomitable systems running at dangerous levels during the fight. We pushed the engines to 140% capacity, Bora explained cheerfully. The manual says that is impossible, but the manual was written by people who never had friends dying while they waited. She met Jin, the young pilot who had flown those impossible maneuvers. The ship can take more stress than the designers think, Jin said. You just have to know how to listen to it, and you have to trust it will not let you down. She met more soldiers, engineers, doctors, and crew members. Each one was professional and skilled, but more than that, they cared about each other. They joked together, ate together, and looked after each other. One evening, Velris found me in the training room. The sergeant was practicing combat moves against a holographic opponent. Velris watched silently. Every movement was precise and controlled. This was not wild violence. This was art. When Mira finished, she noticed watching. Would you like to try? Mi asked. Velis stepped forward. The holographic opponent appeared. It was a Vin warrior. Velis tried to fight it using Ikoth combat techniques. She lost quickly. The hologram defeated her in seconds again. Velis said she tried 10 more times. She lost every time. Mir reset the program. Watch me, she said. She fought the holographic Vin using human techniques. She dodged instead of blocking. She moved constantly instead of holding ground. She attacked weak points instead of meeting strength with strength. She won. The IoT way of fighting is honorable, Mai said. But humans learned long ago that honor does not matter if you are dead. We fight to survive. We fight to win. We do whatever it takes. Velis understood. Then humans were not strong like the Ikoth. They were not fierce like the Vin. They were something else entirely. They were survivors who had turned survival into an art form. I laughed at your people, Velis admitted. I thought you were weak. Mi smiled. Most species do, Commander. We are used to it. People look at our bodies and see weakness. They do not see thousands of years of evolution that taught us to overcome every disadvantage. They do not see the determination that kept us alive through ice ages and disasters. They do not see that humans are not strong because we do not fall. We are strong because we always get back up. Belle had heard those words before. Tay had said them. Now she finally understood what they meant. The journey back to Mars Station took 5 days. Felris used every moment to learn more about humans. She stopped thinking like a superior officer studying a lesser species. She started thinking like a student learning from a teacher. On the 3rd day, Captain Juan invited her to dinner in the officers' mess. She expected formal military food eaten in silence. Instead, she found a warm room filled with conversation and laughter. Humans from different departments sat together. Engineers talked with soldiers. Doctors shared stories with pilots. They joked, teased each other gently, and clearly enjoyed being together. "Commander Velis," Juan said, standing to greet her. "Please sit. We saved you some food." The food was simple but well prepared. As they ate, the humans asked Velis about ICO culture. They seemed genuinely interested, not studying an enemy, just curious about a new friend. Velis found herself talking more freely than she expected. She told them about Ekoth military traditions, about their conquered worlds, about their belief in strength and power, the strong rule. Velis explained. "The weak serve. This is the natural order." An older human officer named Minho spoke up. "We tried that on Earth many times. It never worked well. The strong became tyrants. The weak suffered. Everyone was miserable. But you have military ranks," Velis pointed out. "You have commanders and soldiers. How is that different? Ranks are about responsibility, not superiority," one said. "I command because it is my job, but every person on this ship is valuable. The lowest-ranked crew member is just as important as me. We all depend on each other." Belarus thought about her own crew, about how she had dismissed their concerns, about how she had made decisions without truly listening to them, about how her arrogance had nearly killed them all. After dinner, Mir offered to show Velis more of the ship. They walked through the corridors together. Crew members nodded respectfully as they passed, but there was no fear. Only mutual respect. "Your crew loves you," Velis observed. "They would follow you anywhere." Mir looked surprised. "They follow Captain Juan. I am just a sergeant." "No," Velris said. "I have watched them. When you give orders, they obey instantly. When you speak, they listen. You have their loyalty." Mi stopped walking. She looked uncomfortable. "Loyalty is earned, Commander. I try to take care of my team. I train them. I fight beside them. I would die for any of them. They know that. So, they trust me. The ICO military is different." Velis said, "Officers command. Soldiers obey. It is simple. How do your soldiers feel about their officers?" Mi asked. Velis paused. She had never really thought about it. "They obey because it is their duty, not because they want to. Obedience is not about wanting. It is about discipline." Mai smiled sadly. "On Earth, we learned that soldiers who fight only because they must will lose to soldiers who fight because they want to. My team does not follow me because they have to. They follow me because we are family." They reached the observation deck. Through the large windows, Velis could see space stretching endlessly. Mars was visible in the distance, growing larger each hour. "Tell me about Earth," Velis said. "Your home." Mi's face softened. "Earth is beautiful. Blue oceans, green forest, cities that glow at night. But it is also harsh. Storms, earthquakes, diseases. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived by working together. Is that why humans value cooperation so much?" "Maybe," Mira said. "Or maybe we learned it because we had no choice. Humans alone are weak, but humans together are unstoppable." Over the next 2 days, Velis met more crew members. Each one taught her something new about humanity. Bora, the engineer, showed her the engine room. "We push our machines hard," Bora explained, "but we also take care of them. The ship is not just metal and circuits, it is our home. We love it, and it loves us back by keeping us alive." Velis watched Bora work. The engineer touched the machines gently, listened to their sounds, adjusted them with care. It was like watching someone care for a living thing. Jin, the pilot, explained human flying techniques. "Other species fly by the numbers, follow the manual, stay safe. But humans have instinct. We feel the ship. We push limits. Sometimes we crash. But the ones who survive become the best pilots in the galaxy. That seems reckless, Velis said. Jin grinned. Humans are reckless, but we are also lucky, and we learn fast. Hana the doctor talked about human medicine while treating more wounded crew members. We have so many ways to die on Earth. Diseases, accidents, predators, violence. So we became very good at staying alive. Human medicine is advanced because we needed it to be. Felis noticed something in all these conversations. Humans talked about their weaknesses openly. They did not pretend to be perfect, but they turned every weakness into a strength through determination and intelligence. On the 5th day, Velis asked Tai a question that had been bothering her. You knew, she said. You knew what humans could do. Why did you not tell me? Tai looked at her calmly. Would you have believed me, Commander? Velis thought back to the briefing room, to her laughter, to her certainty that humans were weak. No, she admitted. I would not have believed you. Humans learn early that we cannot tell people what we are capable of, Tai said. We have to show them. Words are cheap. Actions speak truth. I was arrogant, said quietly. I nearly got my crew killed because I thought I knew everything. You learned, Tai said simply. That is what matters. The wise person admits when they are wrong. As Mars Station came into view, Velis stood on the observation deck one last time. She watched the human crew work around her. They moved with practiced efficiency, but there was joy in their movements. They worked hard, but they also cared deeply about what they did. These were warriors, yes, but they were also healers, builders, teachers, and friends. They contained multitudes. They were complex in ways Velis had never imagined. Meyer joined her at the window. What are you thinking, Commander? I am thinking, Velis said slowly, that I have much to learn, and that the ICAF Empire has been wrong about many things. Mai nodded. Learning is good. It means you are growing. Wait, will you teach me? Velis asked. Will you show the Ike how humans fight? How humans think? Mai smiled. Of course. That is what friends do. Friends. The word felt strange to Velis. The Ikoth did not have friends. They had allies, subordinates, and enemies. But friends, that was something new. Something human. Maybe thought it was something the IK needed to learn. 3 weeks after the battle, the Indomitable arrived at Nexus Prime, the largest station in Council space. News of the human victory over the Vin had spread across the galaxy. Every species wanted to see these humans who had defeated 12 Ren ships with just one vessel. The docking bay was crowded with officials, reporters, and curious citizens from dozens of worlds. When the Indomitable docked, everyone pushed forward to get a better look. Captain Wan exited first, followed by his crew. They walked with quiet confidence. They did not show off or boast. They simply moved forward with the same calm professionalism they showed in everything. But it was Sergeant Mai who drew the most attention. Word had spread about the human warrior who had cleared a Vin capital ship with just a small team. Beings from across the galaxy stared at her and wonder. She looked so small, so normal. How had she done it? Velis walked beside them. Her arm was healed, but she carried the memory of that battle like a scar on her soul. She had submitted her report to the council 3 days ago. Now she would present it in person. The council chamber was massive, with seats for representatives from over 100 species. Today, every seat was filled. Everyone wanted to hear about humanity. Velis stood at the speaker's podium. Behind her, on huge screens, images from the battle played silently. Council members watched with varying expressions of shock, awe, and concern. Honored council members, Velis began. 3 weeks ago, I laughed at humanity. I dismissed them as weak and primitive. I believed they posed no challenge to established galactic powers. I was wrong. The chamber was silent. No one interrupted. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy, Velis continued. They are not the fastest, the largest, or the most technologically advanced, but I believe they may be the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because they love war, but because they are exceptionally good at it. She played footage of the battle. Council members watched the Indomitable tear through the Vin fleet. They saw Mai and her team clear the enemy ship. They saw human tactics that no one had ever witnessed before. Humans have been fighting for survival for their entire existence. Velis explained. On their world, they are the apex predators. They reach that position not through natural weapons or armor, but through intelligence, determination, and an absolute refusal to give up. They have refined warfare into a science and an art. A council member from the Thexian Dominion stood up. Are you suggesting humans are a threat to Council security? No, Belris said firmly. I am suggesting they are the greatest potential ally we have ever had the chance to recruit. She let that sink in before continuing. The humans who saved my crew did not do so for reward. They did not know us. We were not their allies. But when they heard our distress call, they came immediately. They risked their ship and their lives for strangers. That tells me something important about human character. Another council member spoke. But their military power is concerning. What if they turn that power against us? Velis looked directly at the questioner. Then we should be very grateful that they have chosen friendship instead. Humans have a saying, it is better to have a warrior for a friend than an enemy. I have seen what human warriors can do. I would very much prefer them as friends. She gestured to Captain Juan, who was sitting in the visitors section with his crew. Captain Juan and his people showed me that strength without wisdom is just violence. They are strong, yes, but they are also compassionate, honorable, and committed to protecting others. These are the qualities we need in the Galactic Council. The debate lasted 3 hours. Some council members worried about human military power. Others were excited about potential alliances. A few were still skeptical that humans could really be as capable as Velis claimed. Finally, the council chairperson called for a vote. All those in favor of granting humanity full membership in the Galactic Council. The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity was officially welcomed into galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in applause. Captain Juan and his crew stood to accept the honor. They showed no arrogance, only quiet pride and gratitude. After the session, there was a formal ceremony. The ICO Empire, represented by Velis herself, presented medals to Captain Juan and Sergeant Murray for their heroism. Velis pinned the medal on Murr's uniform. I underestimated your people, she said quietly. I will never make that mistake again. Me smiled. Most species do underestimate us, Commander. We have learned to use that to our advantage, but we would rather be understood than feared. Thank you for taking the time to understand. Thank you for teaching me, Velris replied. Later that evening, there was a reception. Velis found herself talking with representatives from dozens of worlds. Everyone wanted to know about humans. What were they like? What did they want? Could they really be trusted? Velis answered each questionly. Yes, humans were warriors, but they were also healers, builders, teachers, and friends. They contained multitudes. She saw Tay across the room talking with other humans who had recently arrived from Earth. He looked happy. He was home in a way, surrounded by his own people. Tay caught her eye and walked over. You did well today, Commander. Your speech was honest and brave. I only told the truth, Felris said, though I'm not sure everyone believed me. They will learn, Tay said, as you did. Humans have patience. We can wait for understanding. What will you do now? Velis asked. Will you return to Earth? Tay shook his head. No, I think I will stay here at least for a while. The Council needs people who understand both human and galactic cultures. I can help bridge that gap. I would like to return to Earth, Velis said, if they will have me. I want to learn more. I want to understand human combat doctrine, human philosophy, human ways of thinking. The ICO military has much to learn. Meyer joined their conversation. You would be welcome, Commander. We can always use good students. Over the following weeks, agreements were signed. Trade routes were established. Cultural exchange programs were created. Humans and aliens began working together on various projects. Velis submitted a request to serve as a military liaison to Earth. It was approved. She would spend the next year learning from human instructors, studying their methods, and bringing that knowledge back to the Akoth Empire. On her last day at Nexus Prime, she stood in her quarters and reviewed the intelligence files about humanity. The same files she had laughed at months ago. The same reports about human warriors and endless conflicts. She understood now. The reports were not exaggerations. If anything, they understated human capabilities. The movies she had mocked were not fantasies. They were reflections of real human experience. Humans had been fighting for millions of years. Fighting predators, fighting disease, fighting nature itself, fighting each other. They had learned to be good at it, because survival demanded it. But they had also learned something more important. They had learned when to fight and when to offer friendship. They had learned that true strength included mercy. They had learned that warriors could also be protectors. Velis saved one video file to her personal database. It showed me fighting the Vin warriors in the corridor. She watched it one more time, studying every movement, every decision, every technique. She labeled the file, required study material for all ICO officers. Then she added one more note. The legends of human warriors are not legends. They are warnings. And if we are wise, we will learn from them instead of dismissing them. She closed the file and prepared to leave for Earth. She was no longer the arrogant commander who had mocked humanity months ago. She was a student eager to learn from teachers who had mastered the art of survival. As she walked to the docking bay, she passed a human child in the corridor. The child was playing with a toy spaceship making flying sounds. So innocent, so small. But Velis knew the truth now. That child carried within them the legacy of millions of years of survival. That child would grow up learning the same lessons every human learned. How to work together, how to never give up, how to turn weakness into strength. That child was humanity's future, and the galaxy would be better for it. Velra smiled and continued to her ship. She had much to learn, and for the first time in her life, she was excited to be a student instead of a teacher. Behind her, the child continued playing, dreaming of stars and adventures, dreaming of a future where humans and aliens stood together as friends. That future was beginning. Andrus was grateful to be part of it.